Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am David Safransky, your host for Financial Revelations, a podcast about anything I want to talk about, but mainly money and investing and politics and mission trips. You can hear me every Thursday morning on WCRF 103.3 in Cleveland, and you can listen on the Moody Radio App. And in March, I can't believe they're doing this. I'm going to be on every single morning of the week for their fundraiser share, because when I talk, people give money, dang it. That's what they say, so it must be true. You can call this office at any time, 1-800-344-2534, and you can email Corey questions about the podcast, for the podcast, Corey, K-O-R-Y, at EPSF.com, all running down here. I have a workshop coming up in April 16th at 6 p.m. in Elyria, Ohio, managing money in an election. You know, there are certain characteristics to investing that happen during election seasons that are important, relevant, and we need to know them. And who wins the election does have an impact on our money. If the Democrats hold power, we're going to be seeing communism, more like communism, not true communism. In fact, Joe Biden just paid off $23 billion of loans, $123 billion of student loans. But they don't get paid off. The government doesn't make any money. The government has our money. So the cost just gets transferred to other taxpayers. That's all that happens. And so if you had a loan that you had out for 10 years and hadn't been paid off yet, they paid off your loan. And this is the kind of thing that drives me nuts, because I didn't sign up for that loan. You didn't sign up for that loan, but you got it now. You own it. So let's say you went to school and you paid off your loans. Well, now you got some more. Or if you went to a trade school and you started a business, or you're working in an industry, you now have a college loan from somebody who went into gender studies or whatever it was that didn't really make a living in, and now you're paying for it. And that is not right. That's un-American. We're going to talk about things like that at the workshop on April 16th at 6 o'clock. It's $15 a person. 100% goes to the Amazon trips. 100%. All you got to do is you got to call and reserve a spot. We got about 100 spots available. That's it. We're hopefully going to have a surprise guest speaker there to share. You're coming to hear me, not the surprise guest speaker. So we'll let him talk for a little bit, and then it's going to be all Dave. We'll ask questions. We'll let you ask questions. We're going to write them down. We're going to put them in a hopper, and I'm going to draw out the questions. We're not going to prepare for them, but, as you know, I have the information. So let's talk economics. So the Biden administration wants you to think that everything is going great. Well, the data tells a very different story. And I'm not saying that we're going into a depression. I'm not going to scare you. I'm not selling gold or bunkers or anything like that, although you may want to own some gold and you may want to buy a bunker, because we're involved. We're back into the wars footing economy again. During Donald Trump, we didn't have any new wars. We avoided wars. We got out of wars. And in the Biden administration, we have a lot of wars going on. And, people would say, well, why didn't that happen when Donald Trump was president? Why didn't Russia invade Ukraine when Donald Trump was president? Why didn't Hamas do the October 7th while Donald Trump was president? Well, one of the reasons is because they were afraid of Donald Trump. Literally afraid of Donald Trump and his response to their actions. And Iran didn't have the money. Donald Trump was bankrupting Iran. They were on the verge of economic collapse, and the Biden administration came in. We did have some of these immigration kind of parades that came through, but they forced them to stay in Mexico. He forced Mexico to put troops on the border. Why did we have 7 million people come in across the border in the last 3.5 years? Well, Iran has money now. We didn't enforce the oil sanctions. We've given them $120 billion. Iran is the money source for Hamas and the Houthis and all these other people, these proxies of Iran. They couldn't do that. They didn't have any money. They were on the verge of collapse. The Russians were afraid of Donald Trump's reaction. That's why they didn't attack Ukraine any more than they had done under the Obama administration. This is all happening under Democrats. The world has gone from, some order. And I really think that the European leaders, while they couldn't say it out loud because they have these populations that are very liberal, they loved what Donald Trump was doing. He took them off the hook. Well, it looks like we're getting a rematch between the Biden administration and President Trump. We'll see what happens. You'll never convince me in a million years that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. I think the mail-in ballots are ripe for fraud, and that's exactly what happened. But the Biden administration is telling us that things are going great. The data tells a different story. Inflation last month ticked back up, and it kind of threw the market in a tizzy because it takes rate cuts off there's no way, and I've been saying this for quite some time, there's no way that the Federal Reserve can cut rates into this. There's just no way. Inflation is up. You're going to see oil production dropping, and the leading economic indicators, we call it the LEI, the leading. So these are things that if they're up, the economy is expanding and looks great. If they're down, you think, well, we're coming into a contraction. Well, they've been down for 22 straight months. That's not a good thing. For the first time right now, it has been over 30 years since groceries have taken up this much of your budget and my budget. The difference is you may not be able to shop as much. I do the same thing. If you have money, if you're independently wealthy, life hasn't changed. It has gotten more expensive, but I do the same things I've always done, but not everybody has that luxury, and I understand that. And really, capitalism is the only thing that has rescued people from poverty. It's capitalism. And the Biden administration is decidedly anti-capitalist. They're trying to import a Western European social democracy. They talk about things like universal basic income. You don't want to talk about that. You want to go make your income. And I'm telling you, you're way better off under capitalism, even at times when it's harsh. And it's true. There can be things that happen that, capital moves, people sometimes lose a job. I understand this thing. There's no perfect system. But capitalism has dragged more people out of poverty than any system. You tell me that socialism have dragged people out of poverty, and it puts people in poverty. Essentially what it does is it gives you just enough money to starve to death, and then you got to have some kind of side hustle. I see it in Brazil all the time where they are socialists. They have a universal basic income. You cannot live on it at all. You will starve to death on the universal basic income. A lot of in-kind transfers where they just give money to people. If they need your vote, they'll buy it. They'll put in something. All of a sudden the government shows up and they're doing a public works project. When they need your vote. When they don't need your vote, you don't hear from them. You're starving to death again. But I do think that Chair Powell and the Federal Reserve could still engineer a soft landing. It is still possible. And again, I don't want to scare people, but you are watching the market go up. Today is a big update because Nvidia last night blew out their profit. And much like the Clinton administration benefited from the internet in the late 90s and how it changed the economy and what we did and how we made money, the Biden administration is getting a free pass off of AI because it is a revolution of sorts. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know exactly how AI is going to be implemented, but we know that it is changing things for the positive, mainly. You will see some job market dislocation where AI is going to be able to do somebody's job and they're going to lose their job and they're going to have to get retrained or reinvent themselves. And that's real. That's happening. I think you're going to see oil and gas production fall, and oil is going to get more expensive going into the presidential election because there's going to be a lot of turmoil. There's no way that the left is going to allow Donald Trump to be the nominee for the Republican Party and not burn down cities again. Remember 2019, the mostly peaceful protests. They're probably coming back. They weren't mostly peaceful then. They won't be mostly peaceful now. They actually had pallets full of bricks unloaded in advance of these protests so people could break windows. I've never seen anything like this before. People talk about how Donald Trump is an agent of chaos, but he's not actually the chaos. It's the Democrats that unleash the chaos on him and then blame him for it and blame Republicans for it. But don't fall into that trap. Okay, the Russia thing is coming back. I hear the drumbeat of it now where they're saying, well, the Republican Congress is obviously pro-Putin. Nobody's pro-Putin. Nobody's pro-Putin. We're pro-life. That's what we are. And I think what you see is they've got to have a boogeyman, and that's the boogeyman is Russia. So what's a guy to do? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy the best of the best companies, and then I'm going to buckle up Buttercup. It's going to be a rough ride, I have no doubt. There's going to be some market dislocation, and when the Fed finally does go to lower rates, they got to have a reason to lower rates, and that reason is usually a slowing economy, rising job cuts, lower inflation. Yeah, but the inflation's on the uptick. I heard somebody that I respect the other day, highly respect. I love their work. I read it, I listen to it, I absorb it, I pay attention to it, I make decisions based on it. They said the next move for the Fed is a rate hike. Well, that's going to rock the market if that actually happens. I don't see it yet. January's set of data points is just that. It's one set of data points. Now, it's several data points that don't look great, but I need to see that repeated over a couple of months. And it's true. Sometimes the fall in inflation's kind of lumpy. You can get some reports that they don't look good. And that January reports did not look good. I want to remind you about nativosusa.org. All of this stuff is flowing beneath me in a scroller. I want you to go to nativosusa.org. Just look at what we're doing in Brazil. Maybe you want to go. It's a powerful mission trip, and it's short-term mission trip. This year it's going to be 12 days. You don't have to go this time. You can go next time. You can go once a year. And if we had enough people, like if your church said, we want to go dig a well, we got a team of 12 people, we could do a trip. So we bring the money. They have the expertise. I'll tell you all about it. We'll talk a little bit about it at the workshop on April 16th. I want you to be there. I am David Safransky, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.